What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, and in today's video, going over Week 13 cash plays, just going position by position and talking about some players that I'm looking at. At the quarterback position, there's a few names I'm looking at in cash. Josh Allen at 7,500. His price is up there, but this matchup against Pittsburgh is a good one. Saw how Pittsburgh's defense has kind of been for the most part. The one concern with Josh Allen now, when I'm putting Josh Allen into lineups, is both of his tackles are out in this game against Pittsburgh, so that is a huge concern on that aspect. Other than that, I still think it's a really good matchup for him. Pittsburgh's defense has not played well at all. Buffalo has made some wide receiver changes quite a bit this season, so it's pretty hard to dictate who to really pick with him. I'm okay just soloing Josh Allen in this matchup, though. I will say that. But I do have slight concerns when paying up for a $7,500 quarterback. But there's not a lot of quarterbacks on the slate that I really trust. Justin Herbert at 6,500 is likable at home against Vegas. We saw them earlier in a showdown matchup. 19.8 out of them. Pretty much shut Vegas down pretty good. There's a good chance for them to do it again. Last time we saw Justin Herbert against Jacksonville was pretty ugly. Obviously, the Chargers are dealing with some offensive line injuries, but the passing game as a whole, I really do like it for Herbert and that passing offense. So Herbert's kind of that next guy. This is one that I'm interested in again, but his price is going up. We're at 5,800 now for Jacoby Brissett. Granted, he's put up 20 plus every game. We got Tampa Bay's offense, who's been a roller coaster of a defense. So do I love it here? Not really. Arizona dealing with some running back issues, which is a huge concern. But there's a good chance Marvin Harrison is back in this game, and they get Harrison, Wilson, Greg Dortch has stepped up, and we all know McBride. So Jacoby Brissett is on that fine line for me. And then there's two other quarterbacks. CJ Stroud is getting clicked right now. His ownership numbers are high, so I'm going to mention him. I don't love it as much. He is 5K. We've seen some of the games out of CJ Stroud, and to be 5K is why he's being clicked. I think it's very easy for him to get 15 plus. We saw the Colts do what the Colts did last week against the Chiefs, which was had a big lead. Other teams playing from behind, a lot of garbage passing, pretty much. Mahomes didn't throw a touchdown, but threw for over 300 yards. So there's a possibility of something like that happening again. It's just I don't know how much I trust Houston's offense and their offensive line against this Indy secondary. I mentioned Indy secondary is really good. The other one that I will mention, and yet again, this one comes with question marks. This is why I think the slate is very tough. Is Trevor Lawrence at 5,400 on the road against Tennessee. The reason I like the run game for Jacksonville in this one, so it's not a huge, like, back and forth type of situation. But we've seen, like, against the Chargers, Trevor Lawrence gets you 16 points. Granted, you're wanting 20 plus. There is blowout potential in this one. Tennessee played Seattle pretty tough, though, so there is that. But I do like Trevor Lawrence. Plus, it looks like he's getting Brian Thomas Jr. back, Bretton Strange back. So the offense is getting healthier. So Trevor Lawrence is more likable at 5,400. And I will say this name. I will say this name last. And it's not going to be loved. But Tua is 4,900 at home against New Orleans. Look at Tua's home splits this season compared to years past, and they're kind of bad. But Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle are both two likable players in this matchup. They're going to be clicked a lot. So I want exposure to Tua. For Tua at 4,900, I don't think it's crazy for Tua to throw 202 touchdowns in this one. I really don't. So I like Tua in this matchup at his price point. I think it's a way to pay up at other positions. Going to the running back, yeah, it's Achane is who I'm looking at 8,300 at home against New Orleans. It's kind of been the guy for him. Last 2 weeks, 20 plus in week 10 against Buffalo, somehow 43 points against them. So I really like Devon Achane in that game. Kyren at 66 against Carolina. It's just a really good game script for Kyren, who's had his games where he struggled, and that's with Devontae Adams just being one of the best goal line weapons in the NFL right now. Like, he's just a touchdown machine when it comes to being in the red zone. So Kyren has suffered from that aspect. from how many points the Rams have put up. You would figure he would have more than 9 touchdowns, but they're also getting some running backs, some other touches. So there's some question marks, but overall, I do like the matchup for Kyren Williams at 6,600. I think is a very good price. ETN is going to be clicked a lot against Tennessee. I mentioned that I like the run game in this one. So ETN's been a solid back the last 4 weeks, 15 plus in all 4. Last 2, we've seen him to where he's up $600 in this matchup, but he's paid off in those 2 games as well. So I do want to shout out ETN. I think it's a good one for him. Breece Hall at 6K at home against Atlanta. Yet again, I just think Breece Hall is going to be heavily included in this game, so I like him in this one. Atlanta's been pretty damn bad against running backs, still dealing with some linebacker injuries. We've seen Atlanta's defense play really good against good teams, and then really bad against bad teams. So Breece Hall at his price point, yet again, he's just a guy that fits the lineup, especially if you're paying down at quarterback and you're paying up for like a Devon Achane or a Bijan in the same game. Then getting someone like Breece Hall is very, very doable in this matchup. Going down, Ken Walker is going to be clicked again. Last 2 weeks, he's been very good for Seattle. They're playing Minnesota, who's going to be down to Brosmere. I don't love it. I think this is a game where Seattle does what we've seen Seattle do in the past. Get a big first half lead, and then they're running the ball. So Ken Walker, very cheap price, $5,300. And then Devin Neal, $5K on the road against Miami. No Kamara in this one. It seems like when he's gotten some work, he's been fantasy productive. So now at $5K, I think he's a really, really solid option, especially if you are paying up for someone like Josh Allen and you have to pay down somewhere. I think going a Devin Neal at $5K against Miami, who's been bad against the running back this season, I think that's the way to go there. Wide receiver is pretty interesting to me this week because there's not a lot that stands out as like must plays. Like JSN against Minnesota makes a lot of sense. It's a good game script for him. He's been one of the most consistent fantasy players this season, but he's at that price tag. You have to take that risk. Puka, JC Horn just got announced out, so Puka's facing Carolina without their best corner. Puka's, I mean, I won't say struggle, because if you look at this stat line, you put it on another name, this is a great stat line for other players. For someone of Puka's caliber and his price tag, that he went up $200, like, yeah, you're going to have to be cautious when paying $9K for Puka, but with JC Horn out, I want at least a Kyren or a Puka in my lineup this week. Going down, Jalen Waddle at 6,800 makes a lot of sense. Yet again, home against New Orleans. They've been bad against wide receivers. His splits look really good this week. So at 6,800, I love having him in. Nico Collins, 6,700. CJ Stroud is going to be clicked a lot because of his price point. Yeah, this is Nico Collins. I don't love him in this one. I'm fine with getting Nico Collins in tournaments. I don't like... It makes more sense for me to play Jalen Waddle. And there is the scenario, like I said, Houston, let's just say Houston's playing from behind. Indy gets a lead. Then, yeah, there's a scenario where we saw other players have success against the Colts. They're playing from behind. They get garbage time stats. It's very possible. I just don't love it. I love Indy's cornerbacks to really want to play somebody for them. Like I said, the Chiefs threw for over 300 yards against this Indy secondary, but Mahomes, I mean... no passing touchdown, so a lot of those players just got receptions and yards. Emeka Buka is interesting to me, but I don't think I trust it in cash. But people will talk about him. Ted McMillan, 6,100 against at home against the Rams. Just saw an ugly game against the 49ers. 2 receptions for 35 yards out of him. Facing a very, very tough defense in the Rams. So that's why the question marks come in. But if you're stacking Rams, I think it makes sense to have someone like Ted at the run back position. Michael Wilson was loved until the Marvin Harrison, so kind of off on that. I will mention Michael Pittman, I think, is a really, really solid play versus Houston. If you want to go that route, his numbers versus zone are really good. Houston's a really good defense, which is a huge concern for me. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. But last but not least, this is the cheapest guy that I have for cash, and that's Keenan Allen, $5K against Vegas. You go back and look at week 2 when they played, had a really good game, 17.1. He's their best wide receiver versus zone, and that's what Raiders run quite a bit. So I'm okay if I'm getting Justin Herbert, stacking him with a cheap Keenan Allen, and then probably Gadsden at tight end. And Gadsden's, probably one of the first names that we're talking about on this list. Trey McBride's just too expensive. If we're being honest in cash, it's too expensive to pay for that for a tight end. No one else really makes sense around here. So Gadsden at 43 makes sense. Granted, he wasn't there back then. Struggled lately, but you're getting him at a very cheap price point. Chargers are favored quite a bit at home. No Hampton back, so the running back situation is still not the greatest. So I like getting Gadsden at 4,300 with a double stack. You put him with Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert, and I do like that. And then this tier is where it gets really good. Juwan Johnson on the road against Miami at 4,200. Juwan Johnson's been solid. I mean, a couple games, but I mean, look at the first 3 weeks. You look at the last 4 or 5 weeks. Juwan Johnson's been solid for 10 plus. So just putting him in there, getting a tight end to get you 10 plus is what it is. Kyle Pitts without Drake London in this one is interesting to me. Granted, Kirk Cousins is the quarterback, but we saw in week 8, Kirk Cousins was the quarterback, 9 targets for him, 59 yards in that matchup. Would have loved to see some more in that New Orleans game, but they just went heavy with the running backs. Dalton Schultz at 3,800. I do like Dalton Schultz this week. If you're getting CJ Stroud, pairing him with a 3,800 Dalton Schultz, I do really like. And then there are 2 other names that I want to shout out, and it's all injury based. So we'll go down here and find them. And that's my boy Gunnar Helm, 2,600. He's put up some solid numbers for a tight end too. I would just watch Chig Okonkwo's status. If Chig is out, I think Gunnar Helm's in a fantastic spot against a Jacksonville team that's been really bad against tight ends. He's 2,600, so he allows you to pay up at other positions, especially at the quarterback position, and it allows you to pay up for 2 wide receivers if you want to go that route too. So I think he's worth mentioning. And then we will find him down here because he's going to be the Stone Min, I believe. Maybe not. Maybe he was at 26 and I just missed him. 25. He's the first name. Sorry. Usually they always do it by teams, but Greg Dulcich, if Darren Waller is still not back, Dulcich makes sense at 2,500, kind of the same thing. Good game script for him against the Saints. Granted, seen some not so good numbers out of him lately, but it's definitely a game where he could definitely shine. So, and then defense, I say the same thing over and over. Play who you want at defense. Just play who makes sense. It makes sense to go Seattle against Minnesota with a backup quarterback, and their offense has just been bad as is. It makes sense to go with the Rams on the road against Carolina, where it's Carolina. 49ers against Cleveland. If you don't believe in Shedeur Sanders, then you can go that route. For cheap teams, like the Jets at 24, I guess. The Texans at 29 kind of makes sense to me. Minnesota against Seattle, like we go, hey, they know Sam Darnold's tendencies and all that stuff. Let's go Vikings. So yet again, you could go different routes. I do prefer paying up for a defense, to be honest, this week. Like Texans make a lot of sense against Indy. It's just a good defense at a cheap price. Like Texans defense is usually above 3K. They've put up some good numbers. Saw what they did against Buffalo. So I'm okay with getting their defense. Let's do a build. I'm trying to do this more often for you guys. So let's plug in a defense and just see where we're at. Like, honestly, let's see what happens when we go Titans. Let's just say I just don't believe in Jacksonville. Let's pay up for Josh Allen, see what we can do. I want Achane. Breece Hall makes sense. A wide receiver, let's go with Keenan Allen. Let's get the tight end out of the way too. Let's go with the Dalton Schultz. So that allows us to pay up. I want, like I said, I wanted a Ram. Oh man, I don't. What does this do? Puts us at 41. That's getting Puka. So let's switch Puka out and let's go to the flex and put Kyren in. So that allows us to do a little more at the wide receiver position. And there's not a lot of people that I talked about here in cash. So I'm going to have to go different and just go based off of some guys that I like in GPP. Like, see what Juwan does. That leaves us 59. And then we could go someone like a Pittman. Like, I prefer to pay up, so let's pay down off Josh Allen. Let's go Herbert, and then we got 6,900 for, and then we could go Waddle. But this is why I like, really quick, let's take Herbert out. This is why I like Tua this week. I got 1,700. I could take Juwan out because I don't love Juwan Jennings, and I could go for a. If we're playing a double Miami stack, let's just put Olave on the other side of that. So that's why I like Tua. I could get Achane and then pretty much split the rest of my lineup. Honestly, I can move people around. I could get off Breece Hall and Chris Olave and kind of switch that up. So like I mentioned, I really like Devin Neal this week. At wide receiver, we could get different. I have Kyren, so I don't need Puka. But we could go the route of Nico Collins and just upgrade that a little bit and then upgrade our defense as well. Get off the Titans and go to a, like I said, Texans make sense. So we could go the Texans defense and do something like that. So yet again, just an early example, just going off of some players that I like. So hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. We'll have the GPP video going out Sunday morning. So if you guys are looking for all the tournaments and kind of not the higher own, known players, check that one out. See you guys in the next one.